Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Season 4 update had a significant impact on the Warzone 2 meta because, of course, what it ended up doing was adding in the health update. So now we've got 50 extra XP, which is roughly 2 to 4 shots on the majority of weapons in the game that's going to take extra to actually get a kill, right? And this changes the TTK, what weapons are going to be usable in certain situations. That in and of itself has a huge effect on the meta. We also got some new weapons introduced and some weapon balancing as well. And so today, with all that being said, we are breaking down the new Season 4 meta update. We've got our current tier list that we've seen several times now, and for the most part, things have been relatively well balanced, but this is about to get shaken up a good amount. So first up, we got to rank our new weapons and drop these into the fold. We'll go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. So curiously enough, I would actually say both of these weapons fall into the same category, but for different reasons. The Razorback, I feel like as it stands, is going to be just a competitive rifle. It's not like crazy OP in any specific area. It's just useful. In the close to mid range, as sniper support is more of an aggressive rifle, depending on how you want to build it, it's going to thrive the most there. Over long range, especially now with the increased health and with its rate of fire, it's going to be a little bit tricky to actually use efficiently and effectively over long range versus some of the actual meta weapons, right? So I don't think it's necessarily in the top tier category, and this will be changing as we get into the actual TTK adjustments. But the Razorback, it's a good rifle, it's just not a great rifle, right? And then the ISO, I would say, is borderline more so top tier competitive here. I'd say it's very similar to like the MX9 or even the Bass P, probably a little bit better than the Bass P, but not necessarily up there with, say, the Vaz Never, the MP5, but right there in between. It's consistent, it's reliable as well. Neither of these weapons are crazy broken overpowered though, regardless of how you're building them out. But with the new weapons out of the way, let's take a look at the actual weapon changes. I've got my handy dandy list of all the notes here, and there quite frankly weren't many, but really, the majority of the changes on this list today are going to come from the TTK update and the health update. But initially, the Cronin Squall finally got nerfed again, in a more significant way this time, but also with the addition of the increased health, that helps too. But basically, fully auto version of the Squall, its shots to kill got nerfed by 2. It also got a close range buff for some reason, but then a long range nerf. And then the semi-auto Squall, its shots to kill were nerfed by 1. I got a close range nerf and a long range nerf too. Now, the Squall is still great, especially in semi-auto. I feel like that's the way to go about it if you want to use it and you want to dominate with it. Semi-auto is going to have the higher risk, but the higher reward. That said, absolute meta means there is definitively no better choice, and that is no longer the case with the Cronin Squall. I'm glad I can say that finally, because it's been the go-to option for too long. That said, it is still very good. You are going to see a lot of Squalls in your lobbies, especially the higher skill players who can really master that semi-auto. It's going to work well for frying, especially if you're able to actually string together upper body shots, you know, chest, neck, head. It'll still melt. It's just nowhere near what it was before, which is a solid update in that regard. Now, what's really strange about this update is there were so many shotgun updates. So we're gonna kind of just breeze through these. Essentially, the Bryson 800 and the Bryson 890 each got kind of the same buffs. Essentially, every multiplier, every damage multiplier, so head multiplier, arm multiplier, so on and so forth, all of those got buffed. So it's going to just feel more consistent. It's going to feel stronger, the 890 and the 800 alike, as mentioned, right? But then also they got a long range nerf. So their minimum range, their longest range is going to be a little bit worse. But up close, each of these actually are a little bit better now. They're probably the closest shotguns to joining the broadside in competitive. I don't know, because of their fire rates, if they would actually be useful enough to jump into competitive. What I've used of these and what I've tested of these made them still feel a little bit underwhelming, just because the close range meta, even with the health increase, it's still fast, right? And when you have MP5s, when you have fire shotguns, these don't necessarily stand up to those as well as I'd want for them to be considered competitive, right? So the best average shotguns, but nothing too crazy. And then the Lockwood 300 got a long range nerf, but its multipliers also all got buffed. Its ADS accuracy and transition got buffed, and some of its ranges got buffed as well. It's still a 2-shot shotgun. Like, it's just not going to be like all that competitive at all. Honestly, it could have been below average before this update and maybe jumps up to average with this. And then the Expedite 12 long range nerf as well, but then a leg multiplier buff. That's not anything to write home about. This also really isn't changing. So the shotguns got better. That's something you might notice a lot more of in multiplayer though, where they're now a lot more dominant in lobbies. Whereas in Warzone, because of how the game plays, just not so much. And then the final actual patch note that we got, the weapon change that we got, is that the Fennec 45 now requires one less shot to kill. That's not going to really change too much now because of the health update, but it's going to be very, very slightly better than it was before this update, but also might feel worse because of the health update. So kind of a strange one there, but that was all the patch notes. That said, there is so much more we have to change here because of the health update. And as we get into this, quick reminder, if you are new here, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, loadout info, you name it. If it has to do with Call of Duty, it's here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. And if you enjoyed the video, if you find it helpful at all, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. And quick reminder, if you are interested in checking out the brand new Spectre frames from Gamer Advantage, these are an aviator style frame that come with a actual clip-on sun clip as well, so you can use them indoors when you're gaming, doing school, doing work. If you're looking at screens for long periods of time, you'll want them for that. But if you're heading out and about, you can throw on the sun clip and use them all the same there. The pre-orders end on the 20th, and if you pre-order these, you get 20% off your order as is, but then you can throw in code WhosImmortal at checkout and stack another 10% on top of that for a 30% off discount, only though until the 20th. So if you're interested, the link for that will be down in the description below. Now, when it comes to how this meta has been adjusted with the factor of that extra 50 HP, things are very, very different here. They're already in place to be very good weapons because they were good before, but two weapons I really want to point out are the RAL and the Sakin MG38. Each of these, to me, are now major standouts. I don't want to say they're absolute meta because they are LMGs and their reload sucks and their movement sucks and their ADS speed sucks, and that to me takes them away from being absolute meta. But if we're focusing on strictly TTK, these are two of your best choices now. They've got the damage per mag. The RAL in and of itself, even with the health update now, still has arguably the best TTK in the game. It's got some recoil, but if you can master the pattern, thing is going to erase. The Sakin, on the other hand, has the damage per mag. It's got the recoil factor in its favor. It's super easy to use. Its damage is a little bit lesser, but it's still one of the better TTK options and more consistent options we have in the game now, that despite its slow speeds is definitely going to be a lot more noticeable as a top tier choice going forward. So these two are ones that are definitely going to stand out. Now, when you factor in this extra health, the extra shots to kill required, you look at weapons that don't either have large magazine sizes or already were not great with TTKs. And two weapons here that a lot of players love are getting knocked down. That's the Hemlock and the TAC 56. The Hemlock, for one, only has a 45 round mag and its fire rate's a little bit slower, but its damage, especially because of the nerfs that it's seen, is not anything all that great. The TTK wasn't good before this update. It's now going to be even more noticeable at how much of a pea shooter the ISO Hemlock is. So this is actually dropping down into just the competitive category for me. And same deal with the TAC 56, even though yes, this does have a 60 round mag, its damage is still really nothing all that crazy, and its realistic TTK, despite being easy to use, is going to feel very marshmallowy because of this health update. So those are two weapons that I probably wouldn't be using a ton of. They can hold their own, but they're not going to win you every single fight like they could have before. The STB also has to get knocked down as well. 42 round mag max. Yes, its TTK is good. Yes, you could use it as sniper support as well, and for the close range it might be really good there. Over long range and as an actual rifle, it definitely has to take a step back here because of this health update. Again, the damage per mag really suffering there, which is a bummer to see, but it's just the case of what happens when you slow down the TTK. Now that said, borderline weapons here, Kastov 762, M13, M4, Lockman. The rifle category in general right now is going to feel a lot more, weak because of this health update. They're already, pre-update, not really the fastest TTK options there. The M13 was competitive. The Lockman was competitive. 762 hits hard. But when you factor in the extra shots required and the damage that these guns output now, they are competitive. I think they are still top tier because they are easy to use and people don't love the slowdown of all the LMGs, right? But it's important to consider that their TTKs are going to be a little bit slower than some of the LMGs, but you have the aggressiveness factor. You've got the speed factor that balances them out, that keeps them in top tier. But any kind of nerfs to these could definitely have them dropping down even more. Also, for what it's worth, I feel like the P90s had its run in top meta, and especially with this update, drops down a little bit as well. Lockman sub, MP5, Vaznev, by far your two best close range options here for subs. For rifles, the 7.62, the 74U and the Chimera as sniper support still reigns supreme. These are so good for the close to mid range, and that's the only reason that they are in absolute meta. Every one of these guns, you got to keep in mind, is ranked based off of how it performs where it's best. And where the 74U and the Chimera shine, they are so good. You got to be using them up close. For sniper support or for the close to mid range rifles, nothing competes. I also think it's worth noting, in my limited time, I've really enjoyed my playtime with it in my testing, but I do want to, you know, have a little bit more and see more of the community reaction because they are harder guns to use. But the SO14 and the Lockman 7.62 easily could make their way into top tiers to sort of compete with the Cronin Squall, because in semi-auto and full auto, each of these are going to be really good now. They just have a lot of control and a much larger skill gap, so that's something that kind of keeps them in check, but they are certainly borderline competitive and top tier right now. I'm really considering moving these up, but again, I want to have a little more time to test with things and see how other players react to you know, having these available as an actual option now, whereas before it was just the Squall and the Squall alone. That said, that's how the meta shakes out now. LMGs are definitely favored in this new meta update, basically because of the damage per mag, large extended mags, heavy hitting. They all are kind of there. The RAP is good, the Icarus is good, HCR is really good, RPK is even back up there. Then of course everything in top tier and absolute meta, all worth using depending on your level of comfortability with any of these guns. But if you guys enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications to always stay up to date with all things going on. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.